Hello everyone and welcome back. A couple years ago I did a video on the life cycle of an onion, and there have been a lot of people that have watched that video, and I think it's really helped those people out. So I thought, I'm going to go through this season because one of the easiest things to grow other than an onion is a potato. And I think back to when I first started growing potatoes, I had a horrible time. And I've done other videos and explained about this before, but I really did have a hard time with it. And I think the hardest thing about potatoes is figuring out that it's not that hard if you just get a few things right. So anyway, I'm going to go through and we're going to plant these potatoes, and we're going to follow through the whole entire season. Every couple weeks, whenever I think it's, okay, you should see this, we'll take a look at it, and then you can kind of see and compare it to how your potatoes are doing during the year, and hopefully you'll get good results. For this video here, we're going to do potatoes that are planted right into the ground. We're not doing it in a garbage can or in a tire or anything like that. Up here in Minnesota, I just have really good luck growing potatoes. So a couple of weeks ago, actually, I came in here, I tilled the garden the first time. And then I come out just it was probably 2-3 days ago, and I was going to plant the potatoes, and it started snowing like crazy. So now I've waited a couple days in good old Minnesota. One day it's freezing and snowing, and a couple days later it's 70 degrees and nice, and it's going to get cold again next week. But that's kind of telling you the time of year that you want to plant your potatoes. Now I'm up in Minnesota, so you want to do it. My grandfather, who was to me the potato master, he could grow potatoes like crazy. He would always try to get his in by Good Friday. And that's a little bit early sometimes, but that's when he would get his in, and that's a fine time if you can get out and the weather is good and you can do it. Right now it's just a little bit after Easter. We're right here, we're in the beginning of April, so now for me it's time to plant the potatoes. Generally speaking, you're going to want to plant your potatoes, they say, 3 to 4 weeks prior to the last frost date. And that's exactly where I am right now. We have frost here until almost up to Memorial Day weekend, so that's like the for sure safe frost date when I can plant my tomatoes. So we're getting these in at the right time. If you live down south, like in Louisiana where I spend my winters, you're going to want to do it in January and February. You don't really have such an abrupt cold to warm like we do here, but that's about the time, the coldest time of the year, and when it's going to start to get warmer. When I do my potatoes, I like to plant them 2 feet apart in the row itself, and then I like to keep my rows, if possible, 3 feet apart so I can walk in between them. But it's not that important. I've done it before at 18 inches apart in the rows and 18 inches apart with the plants. The only problem is you have a hard time weeding it. But if you don't mind getting around in there and weeding and stuff like that, you can get a lot of potatoes in a short amount of space. Okay, so of my 2 potato rows that I'm going to grow this year, I only grow 2 rows. That's way more than I can eat. So the first row I'm going to do Pontiac Reds. They're my favorite potato to grow. I like the taste of them. They grow well for me, and I just always look forward to my Pontiac Reds. So when you're planting potatoes, when you read the directions on there, it'll say to plant them 3 to 4 inches deep. Well, that's only going to get us down about that far right there. You take your potato, you put it in the ground with the eyes up, just pick a part that has lots of eyes, and you plant it like that, and we're going to cover it up with dirt. But when they do that, what they want you to do is, as the plant grows up, they want you to mound the dirt around it. Any potatoes that pop out of the dirt and get the sun on it, of course, are going to get green, and green is poisonous on a potato. I don't do it that way. I'm going to take a shovel right now. I'm going to go down deeper than my till even. I'm going to get mine down, 6-8 inches down there. And the reason why is I guess I'm not lazy. I hate mounding it up. I'll put some dirt on it if I see a potato that pops up, but if I can just get it down there farther, it'll take probably a week longer at least before my potatoes come out of the ground, but I just have really good luck doing it this way. Alright, so now I've got my hole dug. We're a good 8-9 inches down. So that's perfectly exactly where I want it. I can put my potato down here, cover it up. It'll take a long time for that thing to come up, but I don't have to worry. They don't really grow down, they kind of grow out. So all this soil is loose. It'll get lots of potatoes in here. when you're planting your potatoes, I buy enough so that I can put a whole potato in the hole and cover it up. But sometimes I don't have enough, and you know, if you don't have that many potatoes, all you need to have is one eye on here. So you could cut this one into 3, even 4 pieces and plant a piece in each one, and it'll eventually grow. But one thing that I like about doing a whole entire potato, I put a whole potato in there and I cover this up, and it's going to grow up and it's going to come out really good. This potato here is going to rot away, and as it rots, in my mind anyway, it is creating food for the potato plant, if that makes any sense. So I don't know, that's how I do it, and I like I said, I have really good luck. So just take your potato, put it in the ground, cover it up. That's all there is to it. I know I've said it in previous videos, for those of you that watch the channel a lot and watch my garden videos, that when I was younger and just starting out doing potatoes, I couldn't get them to grow at all. I think I planted them too late in the season is probably the problem. You end up getting a lot of green and no potatoes. And I would ask my grandpa, because he could grow potatoes so good, and I mean, he kind of got perturbed with me, and he just said, "Oh, Joe, all you do is put it in the ground." Oh, like I said, or like I say a lot of times, sometimes the most complicated part of something is figuring out that, you know what, it's really not that complicated. So I started my first potato at 12 inches in on my row. I'm just going to go every 2 feet down the row. I just wanted to stay in 1 foot from where it's tilled and not tilled, so it has room to grow. And now I'm just going to go ahead and dig holes and put in potatoes. Like I said before, I'm putting my rows 3 feet apart. So here's my 2 bags of my, I call them all white, but yellow and white potatoes. I'm going to do about a half a row of each, because like I said, I prefer reds over the whites, but I always plant both. So we'll start out here. I think we'll do the Superiors. I've grown both the Superior and the Gold Rush before. I have decent luck with them. For you, if you're in a different region of the country or the world or whatever, if you go to your farm and garden store, or your whatever you want to call it, even the big box stores, whatever, and they're selling seed potatoes, they're going to sell the variety that should be planted in your area. Alright, so we've got both rows of potatoes planted. That was a total of 34 potatoes we put into the ground. So you figure we put in 34, we'll see what happens at the end of the year and see how many we get in our harvest. But for right now, the next clip you guys will see will be in a couple weeks when something starts happening. Well, it's been 24 days, so we're over 3 weeks, just a little bit under a month here. And you can see that the row on the left here now has started to pop up. I don't do any weeding in the potato garden at all until all the plants are up. You can see here they'll come up in multiple places, so I just wait until they are all up a good, good 6 inches, 8 inches before I do any weeding. So you can see here the little Pontiacs are starting to pop up. But like over here, this is the telltale sign that you've got potatoes coming right there when the ground starts to crack and make a little mound like that. We'll come back in another week or two and take a look at them again. Well, it's been 2 weeks and we're back again to take a look at the potatoes. I waited until the last ones popped up. The ground was popping through, but they weren't up yet. And now you can see this one actually was the last one to pop out of the ground. And this one here was the second to the last one. So I had no potatoes that rotted in the ground for being planted that deep. And like I said a couple weeks ago, it's been very cold. Now today I got up to 82 degrees. And this week here now, we're supposed to get a lot of rain. And it's been kind of dry for almost a whole week now. So these things should really start growing after the following week. Well, we're back in the garden and it's been 68 days since we planted the potatoes into the garden. Everything is planted now. A bunch of the seeds are coming up here and the potatoes are doing absolutely fantastic. You can see here that the superiors, they are flowering. The Pontiac Reds, they're all flowering too. The Gold Rush potatoes here in this part of the row, they haven't flowered yet, but they will. There's some really healthy looking plants. It's just a matter of time. When your potato plants start to flower like this, it tells you two things. One thing it tells you is that you have healthy plants. If your plants are stressed and stuff like that, they'll be less likely to flower. Doesn't mean you won't get potatoes, but seeing the flowers is a good thing. It means you have a nice healthy plant. The second thing that's telling me is that right now the potatoes are starting to create tubers. So it's been growing all the green all the time. Once I see those flowers, I know that it's going to start to make potatoes. So after they've flowered like this, some people will actually dig down around the bottom of the plant and start to steal some of the new potatoes. I prefer to just wait because when I harvest them, there's going to be plenty of those little ones to eat. But some people just can't wait. Well, now you know what to expect after about 2 months of growth, and the flowers actually started on the Pontiac Reds about a week ago. So we'll come back in a couple weeks and take another look. Won't be long now, we'll be digging up potatoes. Well, we're back out in the garden. Today is day 85 since we planted the potatoes. Really nothing spectacular happening. I just wanted to show you how big they are right now. Also, we've had a fairly wet spring. Now we're about 1 week into summer. And today is the first day that I'm going to have to run a sprinkler and irrigate the garden. It's just, we were supposed to have storms last night. They went just a little bit to the north of us, so we didn't get much rain. So today is the first day we got to get the sprinkler going. You can see now that my superiors and my Gold Rush potatoes, they're only about this tall, but my Pontiac Reds, they're already waist tall. They're not going to get much taller than this. It won't be long and they'll start dying back. But we got some really nice, healthy, big plants this year. If we look at the ground here right below, you can see how it's starting to crack on this one. This one here as well. It just tells you that it's making the potatoes underneath there and pushing up the ground. We'll come back out in another week or two and take another look. Hello everyone, and welcome to day 110 in our potato growing season. The rest of the garden now, harvest is going amazing. Today I just picked a 5-gallon bucket of cucumbers. Everything is going really good. It's been real warm here and the potatoes are starting to change. On my Pontiac Red potatoes here now, the plants are starting to kind of fall over. They were real strong and tall and now they're kind of going over. You can see that some of the leaves now are getting to be a little bit lighter green. All the flowers, there's just a few left over. They're starting to get that little bit of a sickly look to them. Over here now on my Gold Rush potatoes, you can see that the leaves are starting to kind of die back. Some of them are getting yellowish. These are starting to get sickly looking too, just a little bit worse than the Pontiac Reds. And now over here on the Superior Whites, these plants are pretty much completely dying off. You can see that not a whole lot of green color, it's more yellowish. Some of the plants are completely dying. This plant is pretty much completely gone. So this row here can be picked actually just about any time. I'm still going to wait for a little bit longer. I like to let more of them die off. What I really like to do is dig them all at the same time. But I have quite a vast difference between these plants and these plants. So this year I may harvest them at different times. Anyway, we'll come back I don't know, in a little bit more time as these die off, and we'll continue to watch the potatoes grow. Well, we're back out in the garden. It's the beginning of August right now. Last time we took a look, these superior whites right here were all pretty much dying off, and the other ones too, now they're completely gone basically. So today we're going to at least dig this whole first row, the two types of potatoes here. Even the ones over here, my Pontiac Reds, the way that the plants are dying off, they're really not making any more potatoes. But we'll see if I decide I want to dig those today or not. But for right now, we're going to dig up this row and see what we ended up with. Okay, well there we go. For the superior whites, I have had 8 plants, so I planted 8 potatoes and it returned 56 potatoes. So that's not too bad. I don't know, I think I've done better and worse on different years, so this is probably fairly average. Now we're off to the gold rush. Well, for the Gold Rush potatoes, we had 9 plants, so I planted 9 potatoes, and it returned 63 potatoes. And when I'm counting the potatoes, I don't count the real little tiny ones, just ones that you can eat pretty much as a baked potato. What I'm going to do now with the potatoes, I'm just going to wait for a couple days before I dig up all my Pontiac Reds. And with your potatoes, you're going to want to let them sit in the garden. It's nice to do it on a more overcast day. You don't want to get them too many days in the sun or they can start to turn green because they're still so fresh out of the ground. But you want to let them sit outside for a little bit so the skin can get a little bit harder before we're going to take them in and let them sit in, well, I'm going to bring them into the workshop and they can sit there for a couple of weeks and finish getting that skin on them. You can pick out any of them that start to rot and, you know, things like that. But for right now, we're just going to stop. We're going to wait for a few days here and then we're going to dig up all the reds. Okay everyone, well it's about 6 days later. We had a real wet week, so I haven't come out and dug any of these potatoes up yet. So tonight I'm going to go through it real quick. You already saw how I dig them and everything like that, so let's just go through, dig up all the Pontiac Reds and just see what we ended up with. Look at this one here. If I count even the little ones, there's 28 potatoes in there. Alright, well that about does it for my Pontiac Red potatoes. But you can see why I like to grow them. First of all, I think they're the best tasting potato, and just look at the returns I'm getting on this. I had 17 plants, ended up with 194 potatoes, and these are viable potatoes. I didn't count the real little ones. So, and once again, when I get down to here, I mean, every so often you'll get one like this one. How come that one didn't grow too many? I don't know. But down here then, you know, we get a little bit smaller potatoes, once again because that big tree is there and everything, and it shades everything out. And we've got trees close by over there. But I still get quite a few potatoes. And some of these potatoes, like this one here, I mean, look at the size of that potato. That thing is big. One thing with the Pontiac Reds I find versus when I did the, what did I have, Gold Rush and whatever the other white potatoes were, these here you have to dig a wider circle. They really like to kind of branch out to the side, and you'll find a really big one. It's really surprising when you get that fork down in there and start digging. And these ones here, you'll find that you're going to stab a couple with the fork, which I did. So now, just like with the other ones, I'll let them sit here for a day or two. And then just like with these here, I've just thrown them up on top of the snowmobile trailer right now, just so they can, you can see now they've got a nice skin on them right here. They're not sitting on the dirt where they're going to rot or anything like that. And then after that, we'll go to the next step. Well, here we are a couple weeks later, and normally I would have taken these potatoes and I put them inside the workshop, but I didn't need to use the trailer for anything, and by backing it right up here against the workshop barn, they stay pretty much in the shade most of the day, so I've just left them here. I've given some away. I've eaten several of these potatoes, but right now, since they've sat out, they've got a nice skin on them. Now would be the time, if you're going to do long-term storage, you want to put them into some loose type bag, like a, you know, the ones you buy in a store are plastic bags with holes in them, like a burlap sack, something like that, and go ahead and put them in a cool, dark place and just let them sit there and just use them whenever you want to. For me, I'll probably, if I have time, I'm going to can some of these, and since I eat so many potatoes, I'll probably go through most of them. But by letting them sit like this, you can go through them, and it gives you a chance to pick out any rotten ones. With the white potatoes or the yellows, I have a lot more problem with them rotting than I do with my Pontiac Reds, or actually any type of red that I've grown. But you can see over here with these, like this one is rotten, this one has a little rotten spot. And by just keeping them separated so they don't rot the ones next to them, you can pick them out before you put them in a bag and you ruin up, you know, the whole batch. So normally, like right now, I like red potatoes way more than I like white potatoes, but I've been eating more of the whites than the reds because they just don't store as long for me at all. I'm just looking through all my reds right now, and I honestly cannot find even one of them that I need to chuck out of the pile here because it's rotten, and with the whites, there's probably 6 or 7 over there. Okay everyone, well, thanks a lot for watching my video on the life cycle of a potato. Now you pretty much know just as much as I do about growing potatoes. It's really not that hard to do. We'll see you guys on the next video.